So we'll go ahead and get started on this month's virtual Homeless Coalition meeting. Want to thank everyone for those of you who are able to attend, take time out of your day to be here. We greatly appreciate it. Myself and the leadership team are very grateful for the amount of participants that we have each month. Especially in a time of a crazy ending to May and beginning to this month. It's been a little hectic. So hopefully we can provide somewhat of a little structure into going into this month. And we have a couple of great guest speakers lined up for today. But want to quickly go over the Homeless Coalition's purpose and mission is basically geared towards planning, education, communication, and advocacy. We want to, those are kind of our values and our mission to serve the population the best we can. The second thing is the virtual etiquette and kind of, again, keeping microphones muted and directing any questions that you have, especially while the presentation, each presentation is happening. We want to make sure that we can answer your questions. We did send out email earlier in the week for some questions for our presenters that have we will be asking first. So on our next coalition, if you do have questions about the agenda or the guest speakers, please send those in because we would love to try to fit those questions in so we can help you guys on your end. The next thing is success stories. And we'll get into the governance structures here in a little bit. But I love starting off the coalition with success stories of collaboration. Basically moments in what you guys do, and maybe this is your first time coming in and participating, and thank you again for being here. But we like to go over success stories and how we've collaborated with each other, because we have right now 76 participants in this ginormous interdisciplinary approach to providing support to the community. And we want to hear about these success stories because some of them go unnoticed. For example, a situation that was a great reflection of how our system operates. It doesn't do so all the time, but when it does, it's miraculous in finding individuals housing appropriately through the coordinated entry system. I worked with a patient who came in. They were a camper for about 4 years and decided to become engaged in the system. And as a result of that, they went through coordinated entry and the collaboration with SNAP, providing basically a one-stop location here at our clinic where they can continually check in, and I can help with any communication in between. But it ended up resulting in someone getting housed, and it was a great opportunity for this individual. But I want to leave the virtual stage open for anyone who wants to share a success story of collaboration. This is kind of your guys' moments to give kudos to each other because we all work together. So I'll mute myself and leave the virtual mic up for grabs here.
Sure, I've got a good story. So as COVID started, at Family Promise, we were trying to figure out what do we do, and what do we do if there's people that are sick, families that are sick in our shelter, and how do we handle that, with a mass shelter situation. And so we put a call out for anybody that had campers and RVs that might be able to let us borrow them to isolate anybody that was sick. And Naomi stepped forward with 2 apartments that they have off of Indiana that they've been allowing our guests to use, as well as a veterans group set forward with a camper trailer and then an RV also. So we've been able to not only isolate folks that were sick in any way, but also use those as quarantine before families enter our general population. So we haven't had anybody sick with COVID. We've had flu and other stuff, but just somebody stepping forward and saying, you know, here's an apartment, here's some camper trailers to help us solve the problem was awesome. So thank you all for stepping forward with that.
Thank you, Joe. Anyone else? We'll leave it up a couple more minutes for the virtual stage. You have the virtual mic.
We at Compass have a pretty good one. We've been collaborating closely with the Bail Project, and one of the people we support together with the help of SNAP and a couple local businesses and HCA, we were able to get a person a phone, a really nice iPhone, by the way, so we could set up virtual meetings. So we set up the Zoom on it. He now is full-time employed and has an apartment. So that's an exciting one.
Thank you so much. That is great news. Anytime it works out that way, especially when they get an awesome iPhone, that's an awesome thing. We'll have time for one more, and also I noticed Barry put on there that I work for Providence House of Charity Clinic. I'm sit on the leadership team as well as your guys' chair. So again, thank you, and I'll leave it up for one more share of collaboration. Any brave volunteers? We have 80 participants, and I know there's something brewing out there.
I just want to give a shout out to Joe and Family Promise for the amazing grant or gift, excuse me, that you got from Premier to support your work there, Family Promise. When I saw that, my jaw just kind of dropped and I go, wow, that's amazing. So, what you did at Family Promise to help make that happen, but congratulations on that, and it's going to a great cause, and I look forward to seeing more great things at Family Promise.
Thank you, Maurice. So a few quick updates, and thank you all for sharing and being brave. I know it can be a little intimidating being in front of a camera and having 80 people watching at you or listening in. So thank you again for being bold and sharing those stories of collaboration. But a few quick updates. If you haven't seen throughout the past couple weeks, we've been sending out some emails just to kind of help bridge the gap of communication lines. One, there was an email in regards to UGM and kind of how they're functioning right now. STA sent out an update as well as far as the kind of when the rates will be coming back into effect, and that sounded like sometime in July. There was also upcoming things to look for as far as the COC continuum of care putting together the information from the PIT count. So that will be available here pretty soon. But also information about an ordinance that the city is putting together and it's being voted on. And when that information comes out, it will be awesome to reflect that with everyone, but also the Spokane Regional Governance Group. And that's going to be a segue into one of our presenters today. But before I ask Ariane to speak about, and we kind of have the order, Ariane has some time constraints, so she's going to be presenting first. But before we dive into that, I want to give you guys a little, this month's theme is geared towards governance structures. And I want to kind of communicate from a social work mindset and where I'm coming from when I talk about the term governance structures. In the American Social Work Board, they put out basically a definition of what that looks like. Governance concerns are those structures, functions, processes, and customs that exist within an organization to ensure that it operates in the way that it wants to achieve its objectives. And it does so in an effective and a transparent manner. It is a framework of accountability to clients, a framework of accountability to clients, stakeholders, and the wider community within which organization make decisions. And again, this is, I'm quoting from the ASWB clinical perspective, but it's make decisions and control their functions and resources to achieve their objectives. Notice that in this definition, it's geared towards achieving objectives and a framework of accountability to clients. So our giant interdisciplinary coalition, each of us operates under some type of governing structure. A simple example would be, let's see here. I know each of us operates under it, but a basic, simple example of a governing structure would be kind of like streetlights. We all drive down the road, and we are the accountability and framework for us is to provide safety by having streetlights out. We want, there's red, yellow, and green. It achieves its objective by making sure people don't run into each other. There are roundabouts, things like that. So it's aimed towards basically providing structure around something. Another example would be, and bear in mind these are just kind of basic, simple analogies I'm trying to provide you guys. And as we come into yard sale season, most of us have a home base in a yard sale, right? But in order for us to ensure access to our yard sale, we got to do what? We got to put out signs on every block. We got to put a sign out over, on the corner of this block, a sign on the busy street of this block. And that kind of funnels people in to our yard sale, basically. And this is how, and this is also another segue into how the Google groups should be utilized on the Google server when we send out emails and updates and things like that. We try to maintain, the Spokane Homeless Coalition tries to maintain a neutral, unbiased position when it comes to community advocacy. Now, if you want to disclose your political opinion on something which may or may not benefit the population we serve, please provide instructions, a sign to your yard sale, or how people can access that information about your personal agency or your site or your opinion on how you should vote, things like that. We want to make sure, though, on the Google email chain itself, we want to make sure that it remains neutral, but please, that shouldn't deter you away from providing a little sign to your yard sale. So with this ASWB definition of governance structures, today one presenter is going to be talking about their agency, their mission, their values, accountability it has towards its clients within their structure. And another presenter is going to be talking about long-term planning within the structure of the Spokane Regional Governance Group. And so at this point, I'm going to hand the mic over to Adrienne, and correct me if I'm not pronouncing that right, but Adrienne, can you tell us and give us a little background about kind of the Spokane Regional Governance Group?
Good morning. Yes, my name is Arian Schmidt, and I work with the city and the county in regional projects. I do want to make sure I introduce my colleague, Scott Rasmussen, who is also with the city of Spokane, that if you have some deeper dive questions in some of the things that we have going on, please reach out to him. My role as a project manager is really as a facilitator. As regional leaders at the city, the county, the valley, many of you that are involved in different boards and leadership decides that we're going to do the proverbial something, we create a framework using project management methodologies that help us scope out what we're going to do, find agreement in that, make sure that we're assigning the right folks that have capacity, skill set, escalation strategies to figure out how to overcome some of the road bumps that we might find underway. Make sure we define our scope. What are we going to do? And almost more importantly, what are we not going to do as we work on these different efforts, so that by the time we reach the end of a particular project, we understand if we achieved our goal or not. So in particular relationship to what we are looking at with our homeless community and making sure that we really have a good view of the continuum, the regional leaders at the city, at the Valley, at Spokane County have decided that there are so many wonderful efforts in place that really are yielding the desire to really coalesce in a lot of ways on some particular facilities in a way that we've never done before. And one of the events that is really eminent right now is for a continuous stay or transitional housing facility that will be a partnership between those three entities, and once again between many of you, that will look at what we have in place, whether that be funding, operations, provider, and do this together. And then once again, once it's launched, hand it off for that long-term oversight with groups that involve many of you going forward. The hope is that in doing that, we are provisioning well in this whole spectrum, so that by providing more capacity for folks who are ready for a bridge environment, learning life readiness skills, that we then open up room in the emergency area, so that those shelters that folks might have been at for a long time, that were just night by night, they indicate they're ready for the next phase. That gives us capacity that right now sometimes we don't have. So it's really exciting to see this really in the gel form. I think the long-term goal of our senior leadership is that we've figured out how to do this well for other areas of gap, that depending on the different demographics of whether it's adult population, families, youth, young adults, that we learn how to do these well, so that we don't duplicate efforts. We put attention and insight, and in a lot of ways leadership for decision making in where it's needed, but then not be there where it's not needed. So that's really where we are right now. And in this particular project for the transitional housing facility, it's really being incubated by the mayor of Spokane, city council, the commissioners, obviously the executive suite at the county, and the leadership in the housing department and the city community services department, as well as the City of the Valley leadership as well. So it's really kind of exciting to kind of have this formulate. We are in the final processes of editing what's called a project charter that includes those aspects that I just told you about. And when that's complete, Scott on the city side and Tim Crowley or Kathleen Torella on the county side will be able to give you a copy of that we're using as really a guide to see have we articulated the things to do well. And once we've done this well this first time, then we'll decide then what needs to be adjusted and how do we do other things well. So that's kind of my, I guess, high-level wrap-up of what I wanted to share with you today. We're doing regional projects in many areas outside of Health and Human Services, and have had really amazing results of taking those proverbial gnarly balls of string that have knots in it, and really methodically pulling out the strings so that we are meeting the needs and outcomes that all of our regional partners need. And it's really exciting to bring that skill set into this area that I know is of such interest and desire to care well for those in our community.
Thank you. And it's my understanding that this is basically, this group is topic specific, right? So not every topic's going to be in regards to homelessness. But in that topic, in the framework for accountability, right, that kind of theme that we're focused on is one, what is your role in the group? And then also, what's the availability, like who's providing you guys with the information to your group to have better transparency and competency of understanding the population, maybe even those with incorporating the voice of those with lived experience, or maybe even outside providers, partnerships with other, I mean, the community agencies. Right now we have 86 participants who may, want to have a voice. So what kind of input is the group receiving for this topic of homelessness in the shelter?
So I will answer your question, and then I saw a message just pop up that is a beautiful segue. So the Continuum of the Care Board is absolutely the official entity that is overseeing and has been constructed and putting in enormous amounts of insight and expertise. And in my opinion, this past year, by creating what I understand is the first ever joint strategic 5-year plan between the major entities in our area, they are absolutely that entity. What we're finding is there's some nuances of getting a facility like this off the ground in the spirit of true partnership that sometimes needs a little drill down within the primary entities proper to kind of figure out the details, whether that's funding, whether that's roles of staff that serve in local government, whether that's how we are going to make sure that the provider operating contract aligns with metrics and outcomes that were defined by the 5-year strategic plan. So in a lot of ways, this particular group of those senior leaders is really a temporary incubator, and they're trying to figure out some things that you may not be able to really chew on in a large group setting, and they're trying to make sure that they're aligning well the funding that they have, maybe once again those little hiccups that we've had that we've either done well or not done well in the past, so that as we go forward, that those are taken care of. And once again, once we're at a point where the handoff is ready, it does go to the groups like the COC to make sure that this is continuing on in perpetuity for the intent. To answer your question about accountability and how information is coming up to, I think that's why I really was drawn to the whole concept of project management as a professional, many years ago, because really what you have is a key group called your project team that are those folks that have the capacity and skill set to get it done. And those are the folks that I know many of you work with all the time within this community, and depending on what the role is, those folks that quote their day job is to help get these details in order and the structure stood up, they then link arms with you, the 71 subject matter experts throughout the community, as ping points to make sure we are hitting those things. And on a number of other projects that we've done, one that's coming to mind that we're not quite finished yet, but we're nearing the finish line, that some of you might be aware on, that's a mental health crisis stabilization facility for law enforcement. As a pre-booking diversion, we've had an individual that has been tagged with be our liaison, because unfortunately you can't have 71 people in a room, but that is the conduit to make sure that we've got our public education, feedback, tours, lenses, etiquettes, all of those things in place for the provider that does come under contract for the populations that are seeking to be served. And so once again, I think at each stage, in what I affectionately call the cone of uncertainty, we traverse what we know, we place mark what we don't know yet, and we move at that cadence so that there is utmost transparency at whatever stage we're at, but a real honesty that we really can't maybe answer some very detailed questions if we're not there yet. The leaders that are on this little incubator committee obviously are stewards of all of you, whether it be through an executive position like the mayors or the commissioners, or through legislative positions like council president. So I think that there is an embedded transparency in that, in the briefings that go on, as well as the staff that works every day and sees what's happening on the ground to make sure we're not missing the mark.
Yeah, and Ariana, thank you for that information. And just to get to the questions in the chat box, I want to make sure I have enough time for everyone else's input. Homelessness is now one of the questions. It looks like comes from Sophia. Homelessness now is more prevalent now than before. Where are the funds to assist?
So I will share what I'm involved in, and once again, as a project manager, I'm really a facilitator, and when we finish what we set out to do and hand it on, you know, I'm not one of the ones that stays. So I do encourage you to reach out to the city via Scott, or the county, or the valley for a deeper dive. But there are numerous funding streams that come into the city, the valley, and the county for exactly this purpose. And I know that many of you on the COC board review those and give recommendations. And in a lot of ways, this particular effort has been tagged to use some of those funds to make sure that we have any capital funding that is needed to ready the site, as well as make sure we have a viable operational model between funding coming from both public entities and also cultivating private partnerships through foundations that also want to seek to invest in the long-term operating needs of this facility. So that's really what we're using for this particular project. And once again, seeing if this is a right mix of how to approach our funds and how to put it towards something that none of us could really do on our own, knowing that the people that are being served really don't know what boundary they're in at the moment either.
And thank you. And you know, last question that we have is, are there any basically identified potential candidates to run this transitional housing facility?
So I believe that the city and the valley and the county has done an initial RFP review process, and I don't think a contract has actually been awarded. And so really I'd like to defer to the city and the county community services for more information on that, because it's really not my position to share.
Right, thank you so much. I think that question was geared towards understanding that a lot of shelter operators have, you know, their own philosophy, their own mission, and their approach to basically providing shelter support. And so depending on kind of who that candidate ends up being, or the potential candidates, you know, is there basically another question, is this shelter going to be considered like a low barrier? Is it going to be, are there any implementations on kind of where this senior leadership team is leaning towards as far as access to?
So from what I have gleaned is really, as I shared before, this is really a bridge opportunity for folks that have decided that they're ready to seek some help into making some life changes, so that they ultimately are ready for either independent or supportive housing on their own, and providing them an environment that gives them the guidance, the skill set, and maybe just mentoring in healthy life boundaries, so that they can be ready for that. And, you know, once again, the shelter operator is only one component of really what the desired outcome is. My understanding is that also occurring either on the site or via transportation, many wraparound services that are outside of shelter and, you know, the basic needs of food and whatnot are going to be a part of choosing to live in this facility, so that it's really not going to be a one-all be-all of that particular provider, but they are not unlike what we've seen occurring in the Spokane Resource Center. They're going to allow those pathways for the other components that make for healthy living potential occur for folks that are ready and wanting people to guide them in the way.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Ariana, for sharing all that information. I think that's an awesome segue into our next presenter. Again, if you guys have any questions for Ariana, please address them in the comment box. I'm sure she'll be on just for a little bit, but I think you have a meeting to attend to after here shortly.
Well, thank you for the opportunity to share. And once again, it's really exciting to be something bigger than any one of us alone. So I really admire all of you, and thank you for the time.
Thank you so much. Thank you. All right, so up next, we have, let's see, a little information that's going to be provided to us by our next presenter. His name is Mike Shaw. He is the one who's kind of facilitating the new shelter location at the Spokane Arena, and he has been navigating through that contract with the city for 90 days. So Mike, just want to get, are you on right now?
Yes, I am.
Perfect. So Mike, can you provide us with a little history, and you can go into self-disclosure as much, as much as you want to, but can you please talk about kind of your history, mission, values, kind of what you're hoping to accomplish, by having the Guardians agency kind of facilitate this temporary shelter?
Well, thank you, Robert. I'll do a quick brief history. In 2010, while in Baghdad, I was injured, so I didn't want to. I wanted to contribute back somehow, some way. So I formed an organization while in Baghdad, known as the Guardians Foundation. I was able, about 10 months later, when I came back from Baghdad, I had a license to become a 501c3 public charity, and I really didn't know what I was going to do. I set up a outdoor type sportsman situation to take vets hunting and fishing. But then in the first couple months, I realized these individuals that are standing right in our street corners with saying they're veterans and this and that, I realized that that's the place for my focus. So since 2011, we've been trying to focus on veterans, homeless veterans, and fill gaps in services that many of them were lacking. And since that time, we've evolved into a few emergency shelters. We have a transitional home over on here in town in Spokane. And in about 2017, we modified our mission statement to where the veterans that we're helping would become actually individuals that reach out to the community and help the community. So that when we evolved into actually helping the homeless veterans and then becoming more engaged in bigger community issues, we're then asked to be a part of the warming shelter system and its response. And we are evolving to fill whatever role that the city asks us to do regarding their plan regarding the homeless issue. So this year we were asked to man and staff the fairgrounds, which was a COVID isolation center. And then here recently we were asked to move forward with the continuation of sheltering with the policies the city and the county health departments have set up to continue that space for individuals to be during this COVID outbreak. And we're currently under a contract at the Spokane Arena until I believe August 15th or so, where we have approximately 102 spots for individuals that wish to utilize the services there.
Thank you, Mike, for that background. I want to dive into some of the questions that were sent in, since you're kind of the new or newer, and it sounds like you have history working, with the population and having up these other locations throughout the community. But with the Spokane Arena and how new this infrastructure is for sheltering the population, I want to dive into some of these questions here because we had some sent in earlier this week. One is let's see, are clients receiving mail there?
That program is not currently in effect. It's not part of our scope of work. We work and give reference to the House of Charity and their mail program. We guide them to that direction. Being only a 90-day program, it probably would not be the best fit to have mail received there for them, or because we don't want to mirror other systems that are in place, and we definitely have our hands full with all the other wraparound services. So we refer our guests to use the House of Charity if they have that need.
Awesome, thank you. And I think the next question that was posed as far as how case managers can get a hold of clients staying there, I think that was answered in the chat box. A number was provided there by Ellen Smith for the duty phone, basically. Is that how caseworkers get a hold of if they're trying to track someone down?
But yes, there is a 24-hour duty phone. The duty phone is also posted on a sandwich board by what we call the Malin Gate, and anyone can approach that, utilize that phone, and the staff would be able to pick up, identify whatever need is out there, and facilitate that. So the duty phone is kind of a cool thing that lets people communicate from the gates and whatnot to let us know what's going on, so we can facilitate any need, whether it's food service, a donation drop off, all types of things. So the duty phone is one way, and also, of course, you can email the Guardians Foundation as well if it's something that we want to set something up, and we certainly would entertain any type of request for case management or what have you.
Okay, great. And Mike, let's see, the next question here is there any in-house support or basically staff to help guests access services such as mental health, addiction recovery? It sounds like what they're referring to is permanent housing, but I think they're talking about the coordinated entry system. Is there anyone there kind of in the arena to help empower or motivate people, or even services coming into the arena?
There are, in our scope of work under our contract, there is no case management, but that's not to be said that we don't assist or direct in any way we possibly can if someone was to approach us about basic needs, ID cards, things of this nature, and basic information. We have a community resource book that's available as well, to where we can refer. So our primary function is, as it's evolving, would be more as a referral, a referral type situation, and we do the best we can to get people pointed in the right direction. And it's our hopes that they move forward in the direction that we do send them.
Great, thank you. Let's see, another question, and then I'll take one from the comment box as well, that was sent in earlier this week, is what kind of training is your shelter staff receiving on how to work with traumatized or vulnerable homeless individuals. And it sounds like it sounds like you're open to environmental support or outside agencies assisting. But how would they reach out? And are your staff kind of trained to handle situations like that?
The first example of training would be with a collaboration that we have with Spokane Police Department through Scott and operations for de-escalation training, situational training of this nature. And sometimes the actual training itself is many times it's OJT and based on experience. I have been fortunate on this particular project that about 30% of our employees have, we've only been in the system about 5 months last year and 2 months this year. So with that said, a lot of it is, I'll say, it is based on experience. Our outcomes generally are positive, but there's also it's a situational case-by-case basis. So sometimes it's hard to train for every single situation. We can talk generalities, but nothing is better training than the actual experience of being in the building and serving the people that we serve. So that truly is the best training.
Great. And thank you for that, because yeah, anyone dealing with it in trauma-informed care can relate to that, as each situation can be different, and it's hard to provide the appropriate staffing, especially if you have a limited funding based on your contract, to provide that type of support. But did you mention are outside agencies open to providing that support with you as far as a partnership?
Oh, absolutely. We speak with again Scott in operations about we have our operations manual that's a living, breathing document that actually gets built on every situation that we get to learn about or be able to use as a training going forward, teaching moments. But anyone that wishes to reach out to Scott that feels that they'd like to add their services or something to that effect that would help train our staff to do a better job, so that we know that would trickle down to, and then of course we're already implementing Providence telehealth. The SNAP is in the building. The individuals that we have are all first aid trained, and then again it's that experience that just it's invaluable.
Yeah, definitely. And getting to one of the questions that are posted in the chat boxes, are you guys able to take in donations for supplies or clothing, things of that nature?
Yes, absolutely. There's always a need for clothing. There's always a need for those types of basic necessities, especially clothing, shoes. We get lots of requests for that, personal hygiene, the typical things that all shelters would rely on to augment their budgets. It's nothing better than to have a gentleman or a female come up and say, I need something, and be able to go into a little room and say, hey, will this work for you? It's quite frankly a highlight to be able to do that just on a moment's notice through the facilitation of the kind donation from a caring citizen. So it's a wonderful thing. And then again, the duty phone would come out, take care and facilitate. I don't believe we can ask for any cash donations. We're under city contract and we're not soliciting any of those, but those in-kind goods are always needed.
Great. And Mike, let's see here. Another question is, let's see. So city reports have indicated that 102 individuals in the arena can be housed, or not housed, sheltered. right? And so have you noticed any behavioral patterns to reflect why the city is only reporting kind of half the census or capacity being filled? Is there like any behavioral patterns that you're recognizing as far as why it's not being utilized to its fullest capacity level, I guess?
Well, we're always curious about our numbers and why they're up and down. And the first thing that would come to mind is we're obviously dealing with beautiful weather here since we moved expanded it to the individuals that lived on the Cannon facility. We've also know that it's like that happened like just before the first of the month. So I think there's also a drop in population when people typically shelter numbers go down during the first of the month, and here we are still in the first of the month. Our numbers are moving into the high 60s, but I believe between the first of the month and weather, and also the possibility that they're not familiar with the actual facility, and they might possibly even be leery of. There is, it's a different new environment, and maybe there's a little bit of that. But I think that would, if the individuals were thinking about checking it out and seeing what's going on, the gates are open from 7 a.m. to check-in, and anyone can come and go as they please during those times. And if we wanted to get that message out, maybe they could, the ones that want to come and utilize it but have reservations for whatever reason, they would be able to even do just to walk in and check things out and see if it's a situation that would fit them.
Great. And what type of meal services are you guys providing within the shelter?
It's city contracted meal services.
Oh, okay. And does that include like breakfast, lunch, and dinner type of situation?
It's breakfast, lunch, and dinner. The agency is the Women's and Children's free restaurant is providing the food through a city contract.
Yeah. And is that same thing as far as being open? Let's say if an agency wanted to come in and donate a meal or cook a meal, is that something that's allowed? I know that there may be some health restrictions on that end.
Well, it's not something that we want to engage in because we have a system that's there. There's a lot of other opportunities for individuals on the food side to do that. So we are not soliciting any more support with the handling of the food.
Okay. And let's see here. I'm just jumping back to the chat box here. Let's see. One of the questions is from Jason. With the heat going up and the requirement for people to line up to check in, how are you going to make sure people don't get heat stroke while waiting in line? And maybe even to expand upon that as far as while they're waiting in line, kind of helping with the social distancing component?
That's a great question. I have extensive experience with heat casualty, heat injury type situations. And what we've done is we've just recently, we've moved our check-in table in about 40 yards so that we can extend and monitor that line. We moved that in, I believe yesterday. That way our guests don't have to stand out on the Lincoln Street gate up the sidewalk where it's difficult to enforce social distancing on that city sidewalk. So what we've done is we moved our check-in station into about where our storage units are so that they can be checked in. There's water, and we'll probably be initiating some sort of shade type tents to be able to those type of awning type, like 2 or 3 of those that the line can be under, or people can seek shade that way. Our check-ins are very quick. They only last in a matter of 15 to 20 minutes. So it's very efficient check-in, But the concern about heat going forward out on that black asphalt is something that we were discussing here just last week. And some of the ways to mitigate that is to bring them and let them line up inside for social distancing, as well as you know, their water table, an igloo cooler, things of this nature.
Yeah. And is there availability within the arena for situations for people who get tests for COVID, or individuals who may be experiencing symptoms? Is there a separate area within the shelter for that?
Yes, there is. It's one of the team locker rooms. It's a space of about 800 square feet that has been, we call it our clean room. And when individuals present themselves as systematic, we're able to put them in that situation until they are tested, and then we go forward from that. I don't have the exact guidelines on the actual, are we holding COVID patients? I don't have those guidelines yet. So I don't believe those types of situations will be there, but individuals that present themselves systematic have a special, separate space to go to.
Great. And is there opportunity for, if someone were to, let's see, you know, storage opportunity, basically, when people check in, is there, how does that system work?
We brought in 3 large connexes. Well, 2 are over at Cannon. We brought those over with the things that were in there. And then we augmented that system with another even larger one. So upon check-in, individuals are able to store the things that they don't want to go into the building, and no one has access to those connexes without a staff member. We don't call it actually storage. We call it a space to put their stuff, but it's not an official, like they can come and go and grab their stuff. There's certain times when they can put stuff into storage and take things out of storage, or our storage space. And it's working quite well. It keeps a lot of things out of the shelter, and it's very efficient right there at check-in. That's working wonderfully, quite frankly.
Great. Thank you, Mike, for taking time out of your schedule to be with us here at the coalition. Are there any closing remarks or anything you want to relay to, let's see, the 79 participants today?
Well, it's as Ariana said, it's a very big, complicated project for the situation here in Spokane, and we are just filling our role and what we can do, and we hope that that this can doesn't get kicked down the road any farther, and real solutions can come into play for those individuals that want to move forward. And we're excited about the agenda, and we'll see how this all plays out over the next 6 months to a year.
Yeah. Well, thank you again, Mike, for attending this morning. And if you have any questions, it sounds like they can reach out to the deputy phone, or the duty phone, basically, or find your email. Is your email on the Guardian's webpage?
Yes, it is.
Okay. Perfect. Well, thank you again, Mike.
Thank you.
And to the rest of the coalition members, I want to again thank you for participating in today's coalition. We will be meeting again virtually July 2nd, unless something changes where they'll allow 70 plus people to hang out. So if that changes, we will keep you updated, but we'll just plan on meeting the first Thursday of next month, and we will come in with some more information and try to provide you guys with the most education as possible, so we can help navigate each system the best way we can and attend each yard sale. So have fun yard sailing out there this month. We'll see everyone later.
Bye.
And I'll stick around to You know, for any, I have about probably 15 minutes for any dialogue anyone wants to, any questions anyone has for me.
Hey, can you hear me?
I can. Who is
Hi,
it?
this is Terry Anderson from the Tenants Union.
Hello, Terry Anderson.
Hi, and I'm not on video, but I've been listening to the meeting, and I was wondering what your subject for your meeting in July would be.
So
You
we
have,
are kind of like our theme is what we're doing each month. Is that what you're asking?
yeah, because there's some ordinances that are coming up to be voted on by city council, and I thought maybe I could do an update. And my understanding is there may even be a affordable housing um, maybe levy on the agenda. And so both of those two things, the tenant protections and the affordable housing, I think would be informative for the folks in the coalition.
Yeah, definitely. So how we kind of determine each month's theme is the leadership team meets and we kind of discuss relevant topics, and definitely that's one that will most likely be on the table for our next agenda as far as an agenda item at our next leadership meeting. So yeah, we will definitely be discussing that and how we want to share that information with everyone as we get it, because we're still kind of waiting to see what happens with that as well. But thank you
Yeah,
for.
and I don't know, and actually we're in the same, because I don't know if they're gonna, when you move into phase 2 or 3, or whether they're gonna do it at an open meeting or they're gonna do it at an electronic meeting. And now that the eviction moratorium has been extended, so there's a whole, we're a little uncertain too.
Yeah.
But I just wanted to, if we do find out, because currently the tenant protections are on the July 13th council meeting agenda, and there are 2 different ordinances that, one of them's fairly complex, and I thought people should maybe get an understanding of what they're voting on.
Yeah, definitely, and I can bring that a part of this increased level of communication and collaboration. As I've been the coalition, the homeless coalition leadership team, we felt it kind of appropriate to maybe reach out to the community housing and homeless services director, and that was Tim. And so maybe he'll be able to provide me with a little bit more information each Friday. Him and I could meet and discuss relevant topics that come up through the chain of the coalition members. And so we will definitely, I'll try to do my best to fit that in as far as a topic of conversation.
Yeah, he may know more than I know in terms of the timing and stuff. So, well, thank you. I just wanted to put it on your radar, and I may follow it up with an email. But thank you very much.
Thank you.
Okay.
Hey, Robert, with so many changes happening in each of our agencies because of opening back up and new fiscal years for some of us coming in July, maybe if we could put a little bit of time for announcements of those changes on the agenda would be helpful, I think, to get some words out of the way things are changing in the system moving forward.
Perfect. Thank you. Sorry, I'm typing notes. I'm not ignoring you or anything.
Well, Robert, why don't you type? And I'm Barry Barfield. I'm the administrator of the coalition, and we are trying in the coalition to get some of that stuff that Joe's mentioning. I mean, we can do this through announcements, like the next meeting, people will do it verbally. But if any of you, I mean, things are changing rapidly. So if you have like an update, like the Union Gospel Mission responded to our request, gave us a lot of stuff of what they're doing right now. And if other agencies or service providers have like something new that they want to get out that'd be helpful, send them through the coalition website or send them to me, barrybarfield@gmail.com, and we'll try to put those things together and put them out.
Yeah, I know it was going to be on the agenda for our next leadership meeting as well to kind of discuss making that available on the webpage too, as far as having kind of a resource direct site to go to directly for that in case someone misses out on the announcement at the coalition meeting or something. It will be posted on the webpage. Any other questions for me?
I just want to tell Robert, this is the first time I've ever been on a Zoom call with somebody that's on a bicycle. So awesome job, Robert.